Hello, this is Tedros Marcos, and with me is Tatek Haptamu. Tatek has many years of experience in disability advocacy and also advocating for women. He has also masters in social works. Welcome, Tatek. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't we start with your introduction? Can you introduce us with yourself?
Of course. So, my name is Tatek. I'm Ethiopian, visual impaired. Like you said, I have a lot of experience in the area of persons with disabilities, advocacy. In terms of qualification, I have LLB, BA in sociology, and also MSW in social work. So in all these qualifications, I have worked as teacher, as a social worker, as an advocate, especially in the area of women, children, and persons with disabilities, more than 16 years in my country. So I have a family, I'm married, I have 2 children, so my family live in Ethiopia.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. So I see in your bio that your thesis for the Masters in Social Works focused on the practice and challenge of inclusive education in Ethiopia. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The main objective of my thesis research was to identify the available opportunities and also challenges of inclusion of visual impaired students in a particular school. My country has accepted and included the principle of inclusion, but in reality, when you come to the practice, there are a number of existing gaps. When we talk about inclusion, we are talking about the environment, the inclusion of the environment, the teaching aids, teaching materials, classrooms, libraries, toilets, sport fields, and so on and so forth. In practice, all these important areas for the inclusion of persons with disabilities, especially for blind people, for blind students, all of these areas are not inclusive. That's what I have found out in my research in that particular school. So, teachers have lack of awareness, the administration staff have that kind of low awareness. Even the students among the blind students, they have very low awareness attitudes, towards the rights and needs of those children.
Interestingly, I see that your thesis for the LLB as well as the MSW, they were on inclusive education. So one is for the law for your first degree and the other one is for your master's degree. I'm just wondering whether you could expand on the parallel, the similarity between these two research. And not only this, you can also touch on the overall perception of people with disabilities in Ethiopia.
Yeah, thank you again. So here is the thing. When we talk about inclusion, we are talking about, the social inclusion, the policy inclusion in different plans, programs, packages, and so on and so forth. So when I tried to, conduct my MSW degree research, I was trying to identify those barriers related to social aspects. Like I explained, particularly in the school area, students with visual impairments are not learning in an inclusive environment. They are excluded in the inclusion system of education. As a principle, there is an inclusion system of education, but students blind, like the ones that I am referring, are highly excluded from the system. So we need instruments that facilitate, that forces, the executive body of the government, to put into practice what is in the policy, what is in the strategic plans, package, and so on and so forth. The legal gap in my country emanates from the constitution itself. We have accepted, made this international agreement on the rights of persons with disabilities as part of our law, whereas the constitution that we have contrasts with this international law. So what I was trying to identify with my LLB degree research was, what was, the existing gap between this agreement, between this law that we made, part of our law, and the constitution that we have already. Under Article 41, Sub-Article 5 of the Constitution, there is a very mean sub-article that says the government will provide services, including education and employment, and so on and so forth, with the available resources. Or if the government is able to do that, if the government is able to provide those things, the government will do that. If body of government, one organ of government, for example, if it refuses because it doesn't have a resource to do that, there is no legal ground that an association or any agency, forces to do on behalf of children with disabilities. So there is clear gap between the Constitution and these international laws that we have made part of our law. So we are now advocating, the Constitution should be amended because it bases, the principle of charity model, rather than it has to be, of course, in line with right-based model. That's what I can say in this regard.
I think that really makes sense to me. I remember to have conducted a research along the same line some 20 years ago. And what I found out back then is actually Ethiopia is one of the first African countries that ratified the law for people with disabilities, but many African countries were struggling with translating the law into practice. And, some constitutions or laws also have had this controversial provisions in them. What you are explaining really makes sense to me. Now let's talk about how you ended up in the United States. What brought you here?
There was an international fellowship competition There is an institution in the University of Massachusetts known as an Institute for Community Inclusion. This institute has the purpose of empowering young leaders with disabilities in Africa for making them, play a role in the civic engagement of persons with disabilities. So I got the opportunity to come to the US to take part 5 weeks fellowship training on this topic. So that's how I came to the US. So actually the State Department sponsorship program.
Interesting. Okay. How has your experience been here in the United States? How do you describe it?
To be honest, it's beyond my expectation. There are a number of gaps. There is no an institutional or legal ground, that supports people like me. Being blind by itself, has many challenges, many challenges here and there. There is no room that can give, opportunities for blind people like me. It was really challenging, but thanks to the individuals, they rather than the institution support, individuals give me their hand, to come out of that deep problem. So it's very, very challenging.
What you are explaining really relates to me, because there are no customized programs for refugees with disabilities, and even my experience with consumer organizations was not really that great. Much of their program, actually almost all of their programs, do not really take refugees with disabilities into account. Let's talk about your employment experience, your work experience. How has your disability affected or influenced your career choice?
Because of the attitudinal barriers on one side and the physical barriers and institutional barriers on the other side, make my professional career challenging, affects negatively. When you go to compete for a certain job position, when the HR officer, recognize that you are blind, they automatically change their mind. They may cancel the interview, as if they were facing some sort of problem at that time. But the main purpose of canceling that interview date is making you out of the competition. That was happening so many times. It's a really hard part of my life, as well as other fellow friends too. Of course, it's not only my experience. It's very common, to see blind people, getting deprived of their employment rights in this way. We always, struggle, we fight, and finally I get employed. And after getting employed, like I explained in the beginning, all the physical environment, are full of obstacles, man-made obstacles. We have laws, of course, that says, the environment must be accessible for persons with disabilities, included for blind people. But organizations, they never allocate budgets for that modification, or they never take into consideration during design. So it's full of, obstacles. We have also a provision that obliges, employers should have assistants, personal assistant for blind people. It's also another problem area. It depends on the willingness of your immediate boss. Anyways, it's not institutionalized. It depends on individuals willing. So all these things, the experiences that I gone through, and affects, of course, my professional career.
This is sort of a follow-up question, actually, but to the question that you've alluded to earlier. And how accessible is the job search navigation? What's your experience in terms of accessibility?
Here in the US?
Yes.
The websites are not as such accessible. They are not friendly. Of course, it could be related, personally, it could be related with my, computer usage. Lack of computer training that much, but I have this basic, or I can say intermediate usage, but still what I have witnessed in this regard is all the websites are not easily navigable, especially some websites, they are not accessible. For example, last time I received a letter that I have to put my signature electronically, but because of the inaccessible nature of the website, I was unable to do that.
Yeah, that's why we are now witnessing, lots of lawsuits due to inaccessibility of websites. And actually, a number of refugees or immigrants with disabilities are also experiencing a challenge. They are expected to have US education and US work experience for a better life. This in itself actually poses a serious challenge for many people.
Yes, sure.
I was wondering whether you could draw a comparison between your work experience back home in Ethiopia and here in the United States.
In Ethiopia, in terms of physical accessibility, for example, we have a very friendly environment. I can easily move here and there without, crashing here and there with standing poles, trees, and different objects. It's really an opportunity to have such friendly, such convenient environment that blind people like me can easily walk from place to place and do things by themselves. So it's really one important part of the US life that I really love, that I really admire and wish to be in my country the same. When you go to my country, Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, so the reverse is true. You cannot walk even quarter of miles, without obstacle. You may fall down because of the dish, because of different objects that unexpectedly you encounter. In terms of physical environment, it's very, very, very. You have a lot of obstacles in your office, even in your compound, in the compound that your office is located. So everything is not convenient, the environment. In terms of awareness, even here in the US, you have more privilege, to work, to go from place to place, to do things by yourself without affecting your daily activity. In the case of my country, people interfere in each and every step of your life under the banner of, support, assistance. You have no the privilege to work alone, to do things as you like. I think in Ethiopia, they don't depend on you, on your work, usually. Though you do things well, maybe better than other stuffs. They don't want to appreciate you. They don't want to accept you. So that's the big problem. There could be sometimes, exceptional circumstances that blind people and other persons with disabilities might, get such promotion, such appreciation, recognition, and so on and so forth. But mostly, as a principle, we can say no. So we have a lot of attitudinal, institutional, physical, and of course legal barriers that hinder our professional career, our life.
What does work mean to you, and in what ways does work contribute to your personal identity?
Actually, I might not have my own definition, but work is any activity that make you earn something, something good. Work is not only about earning money. Work is gaining mental health, gaining physical health, getting social interaction, promotion yourself. Social interaction is very important in life. There are a number of fruits of work. When a blind person, go for work, that means he gains mental health. He keeps on his physical well-being, increases his social interaction, and so on and so forth. A lot of fruits, you reap from work.
Yeah, I think it comes down to independent living at the end of the day.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, we've been talking about barriers to employment. You have a degree in LLB as well as a master's in social works, and you also have work experience in both areas. Which one was easier for you to navigate?
The problem lies among the community you work, or in the communities that you work, and the organizations that you work. So both professions, as long as you have the qualification, you have the experience, you have the ambition, the desire, to bring some difference among your community, there is no problem. I think you can easily navigate in both professions. So the problem is the ones that I was mentioning. So I was enjoying, working as a legal person, supporting women who were deprived of their rights during divorce and in the workplace, and also children, with disabilities and with no disabilities, of course. So I really enjoy, working as a legal person. At the same time, as a social worker, I was really happy to do, training, conduct research, giving counseling for different clients, giving this psychosocial support. all these stuffs. So I have no problem with both professions, of course. For that matter, they are related. They complement. I usually give recommendations when I was, a low student. I learned this social work and sociology. That was really useful to understand the social beyond knowing these law theories and provisions, codes, and so on and so forth. It's very important to know the social aspects of a human person. These professions complement each other, so I really enjoy.
Can you share some personal experiences that have shaped your perception of work?
When I began work, I was a teacher, so I had the opportunity to introduce myself with diverse identities, rural students and city dwellers, and different people, the teachers, the school administrators. The whole environment was new for me, of course. So as I struggled for living myself, on my way, I could bring some attitudinal awarenesses among the society, among the communities that I was working as a teacher. So, I was able to mobilize, students to participate in clubs, in volunteering activities, in donation, in cleaning service, cleaning, the school environment, seedling, or planting trees. I was organizing all these things, These things bring or created two important things. One, all these activities helped the community that I was living in. And on the other side, people started, realizing that persons with disabilities like me can work, can lead. It was really a unique experience for me. I mean, it was really the experience that I like most. After that, I came to a non-profit organization and coordinated a project on children and especially on the rights of children with disabilities. The same thing happened. I had the opportunity, the privilege to meet with teachers and raise their awarenesses towards the rights of children with disabilities. So all these things, I think, has meaningful place in my professional and personal life.
Well, this will be my last question. You have years of careers in social works as well as in disability-related activities or disability-related employment.
Yes.
Can you share any stereotypes related to disability that you experienced, be it at work or when seeking employment?
So you mean the experience that I faced?
Yes. Any stereotypes, misconceptions that you experienced?
Yeah, I applied in an office, government office, to be employed as an officer. Then I passed, the screening and was supposed to take paper-based exam. So I went to the office to take the exam. Our names were called, so we got into the hall, the exam hall, and I was waiting for someone to help me read the exam. I was asking someone to call the coordinator, and after some time, someone came to me and put a pen and the exam paper. So he says, "Good luck." I asked him, "I am blind. I need someone to read and write what I say." But the person laughed. You say that's the rough explanation. I mean, because I am as equal as other people. You preach this, you say this, so you are equal. There is no one to read and write on your behalf. So do you by yourself? If you cannot do this, that means you are not fit. That's up to you, he said, and left. It was really sad. Later, I tried to convince other, staff take the exam, of course, finally, but I was full of stress and depressed because of the incidents, because of this negative beliefs and stereotypes. That's what I really remember always.
This sounds like a skewed interpretation of equality, and it's really hard to believe. Well, I said the last question, but that was a penultimate question. Actually, I have one more question. Have you ever avoided any work opportunity because of your disability?
By myself, no. But I avoided it because of the external factors. They may cast out, your application, your CV, and, made you out of the competition.
So what they technically was doing is actually just screening you out.
Exactly. If they found you are blind, yes, definitely.
Well, I really appreciate your time and thank you for sharing your experience and your perspectives as well as your work history.